Hey basketball guys, we have news. Let's go to more Los Angeles Lakers news, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Some players may be on the verge of leaving the purple and gold. One thing is for sure, next year's Lakers will be different, and hopefully better, than this year's Lakers, because this year's team simply wasn't good enough. Next season's Lakers roster will be drastically different. Coach J.J. Redick has made it clear in this series which players he believes in and which ones he doesn't. Players like Dalton Nitch, Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Alex Len, Shake Milton, Jared Vanderbilt and Markieff Morris will either be released or traded. What can Pelinka pull out of his bag this offseason? Maybe the Bucks will trade Nico Harrison and give him Giannis Antetokounmpo for Austin Reeves. Maybe he can pry Kevin Durant off a Phoenix Suns team that should be desperate to hit the reset button. All of which means next year's Lakers could be unrecognizable compared to the team we see now, which itself is a far cry from the team that took the court on opening night. D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Davis, 40% of the starting lineup, are gone, replaced by Dorian Finney-Smith and Luka in a pair of trades that helped general manager Rob Pelinka earn a contract extension and a promotion to president of basketball operations. Former NBA player leaves Lakers LeBron James, Luka Doncic off key list during playoffs. James and Doncic are among the best superstar duos in the NBA at the moment. However, the pair haven't made the cut in former NBA star Chandler Parsons' list of best duos in the league at the moment. Parsons played for teams like the Houston Rockets, the Dallas Mavericks, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Atlanta Hawks during his career. Read on to know which duos he picked as the best. Chandler Parsons leaves out LeBron James and Luka Doncic. Starting off in Parsons' list was the Boston Celtics pair of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He then picked the Oklahoma City Thunder duo of Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Parsons' third pick was not so straightforward. He went with the Cleveland Cavaliers' Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, or Evan Mobley. The New York Knicks' Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns were Parsons' fourth pick. The Denver Nuggets' Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic concluded the top five. Parsons said about Murray and Jokic, Jamal Murray's regular season struggle is because he's been banged up. He hasn't had the greatest regular season. But, when you have Jokic and then you have a guy like this who is capable of going, the fact that he has more 40-point games than Jokic or any Nugget ever, is so impressive. It's worth noting that Parsons made the duo only on the pairs left in this season's playoffs. LeBron James and Luka Doncic's absence is certainly notable. Coach J.J. Redick doesn't trust Jackson Hayes. It's been pretty clear since Game 1 that the coach doesn't fully trust Hayes as the team's starting center. His mistakes in the game meant his playing time was reduced to just 8 minutes. For the rest of the game, he was replaced by either Dorian Finney-Smith or Jared Vanderbilt. However, that scenario didn't change in the following games against the Timberwolves, and the lack of a big made them feel more free in our paint. After the first 4 games, Hayes' average playing time was 7.4 minutes, while Finney-Smith's increased to 34.8 minutes. The main one is the improvement that Hayes had in the final stretch of the regular season, especially after the arrival of Luka Doncic, who was able to create plays that could improve his offensive game in the paint. Another reason could be the lack of tall players on the team. Although Finney-Smith has been playing a great defensive role, with good perimeter use, he is still at a disadvantage compared to the size of the Minnesota team, since he is only 6 feet 1 inch tall, while Hayes is 7 feet 1 inch. Not even Vanderbilt would have that size impact on the court, since he is only 2 inches taller than Dorian. The players who could really surprise with this tall presence were Trey Jemison, who is 7 feet 1 inch, and Christian Koloko, who is 7 feet 1 inch, but neither of them can play in the postseason because of their contracts, which were not converted from two-way to standard. And Alex Len, also 7 feet 1 inch, is an even worse option. Once again, the blame falls on Rob Pelinka, who has been asked for years to sign a good center and, after the departure of Anthony Davis, this request became even more urgent. His only attempt was to bring Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets, but the trade ended up being cancelled and the Lakers missed the market deadline. To avoid being left with nothing, Pelinka brought in Alex Len, who is a real disaster on the court and has not had an expressive performance. But he is one of the names that JJ Redick has at his disposal, and that is what he can work around. Lakers' Luka Doncic returns to Game 5 versus Timberwolves with back injury. Lakers star Luka Doncic left Game 5 against the Timberwolves late in the first half and gingerly limped to the locker room. The Los Angeles Lakers are fighting to keep their season alive on Wednesday night in Game 5 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, but the first half didn't go according to plan. The Lakers were able to recover from a big deficit in the first quarter, but they still trail the Wolves 59-49 at halftime. Late in the first half, things went from bad to worse for JJ Redick's squad. Star guard Luka Doncic drove into the lane and was fouled hard by Donte DiVincenzo on a layup attempt. The foul was ruled to be a clean, common foul after a review, but Doncic came up holding his back and walking very gingerly. Doncic made both free throws and immediately checked out and went to the locker room with just over a minute left in the half. The former Maverick star has taken a lot of heat during this series for his defense, but the Lakers still absolutely need him on the floor and operating at full capacity if they are going to come back and win not only this game, but a potential Game 6 and Game 7 if they can get that far. Doncic's ability to be an elite scorer and distributor unlocks the rest of this Lakers offense, and it will be hard for them to score on a great Timberwolves defense without him. Doncic did come out of the locker room at halftime with a heating pad on his back just before the start of play and entered the game. However, he is still moving pretty gingerly, so it will be worth monitoring how that affects the game, especially when the Lakers are on defense. Even before the injury, Game 5 had not been Doncic's best game. In the first half, the Slovenian superstar scored just 12 points with 5 rebounds and 4 assists. If Los Angeles wants to come back to win, they will need much more than that from Doncic in the second half, even if he is playing at less than 100%. What's really going on with Reeves on the Lakers? Coming into the playoffs, the expectation was that Luka Doncic and LeBron James would be joined by a third rising star, Austin Reeves. After a solid regular season, averaging 20.2 points, 5.8 assists and 4.5 rebounds per game, in addition to great shooting percentages, 46% from the field, 37.7% from 3 and 87.7% on free throws, the player seemed ready for an even bigger role in the postseason. But the series against the Minnesota Timberwolves changed everything. Reeves has struggled a lot against Minnesota's physical and athletic defense. His difficulty in creating plays and his lackluster performance in decisive moments have left the Lakers' offense predictable and unbalanced, and with that, an uncomfortable question has arisen: what to do with Austin Reeves if he is not being used as he should be? Since the start of the series, coach JJ Redick has been focusing the ball on Luka Doncic to a degree that borders on overkill. The result, Reeves, and even LeBron at times, have become mere spectators on offense, confined to the dead zone or forced to play as isolation shooters, lacking the rhythm or creative freedom that made them shine all year. Minnesota's defense, packed with tall, fast players, has the spaces closed and Reeves is pressured on every drive or catch-and-shoot attempt. When he has time to throw at pace, he still delivers, but when he has to accelerate or improvise, his performance drops significantly. In addition, Redick has been insisting on a defensive system based on constant switching, which makes Reeves even more vulnerable, as he is often the target of mismatches exploited by stars like Anthony Edwards. This, combined with his limited use on offense, turns Reeves into a limited version of what he is capable of being. Today, Reeves has 2 years remaining on his current contract, with a player option after next season. Starting in the 2024 offseason, he will be eligible for a 4-year extension worth up to $90 million. Before the playoffs, that proposal seemed low, with sources around the league estimating his value between $30 and $33 million per season. Even with a poor series against the Timberwolves, there is no indication that the market has backed down on his value. Nor have the Lakers changed their stance, the desire to offer an extension remains. But a legitimate concern arises: is it worth paying so much for a player who can be easily neutralized by more physical defenses? The answer, like everything in the NBA, depends on the context. If the Lakers continue to use Reeves as a spot-up shooter and support, then the investment seems high. But if the franchise decides to return him to the creative prominence he showed during the regular season, then he could still be worth every penny. There are cases, however, in which keeping Reeves may simply not be an option. If names like Giannis Antetokounmpo or Kevin Durant do enter the market, and interested teams demand Reeves as a key trade piece, the Lakers will have to listen. Outside of those exceptional cases, however, trading Reeves would be rash. More than just a promising player, Reeves is a moldable talent who can play as a primary or secondary creator. The problem isn't him, it's the system he's being used in. If the Lakers' current philosophy is to turn Reeves into a role player, then paying top dollar for someone whose key attributes are being overlooked doesn't make sense. On the other hand, if the offensive plan is revised, he could once again be a key player at a time when he is seeking titles. The worst decision would be to trade Reeves now simply because the coach doesn't know how to use him. He still has 1 year left on his contract at an incredibly low price. If a trade is to be considered, it should be for a real star and not because of distrust in his performance in a single playoff series, against one of the most suffocating teams in the league. J.J. Redick had conversations with players benched in Game 4, says they understood. After only 5 players played in the second half of Game 4, J.J. Redick talked to the benched Lakers to ensure their readiness for Game 5. The Lakers not only lost Game 4 on Sunday, but they did so with a new and frustrating twist. At the start of the second half, J.J. Redick decided to bench Jackson Hayes for Dorian Finney-Smith. He never made another substitution for the rest of the game, becoming the first coach to play just 5 players for an entire half of a playoff game in the play-by-play era. Not only was this decision conversational, to say the least, but it also didn't lead to a win. How do players like Hayes, Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent and Jordan Goodwin feel after being snubbed in a big game? Will they still be mentally all in for Game 5? Redick addressed these concerns after Tuesday's practice. "I spoke to everyone yesterday that would have potentially played the second half," Redick said. "They all understood it. There was no issue with that. Chemistry and camaraderie are difficult to obtain, but they can vanish in a flash." Redick's decision to bench these guys tells them he doesn't trust them in a must-win scenario, even if that wasn't his intention. It's reassuring to hear that the players understand and will remain professional. Hopefully, following Redick's conversations with the guys, they'll be ready for the challenge ahead. Late in Game 4, the Lakers were obviously gassed and blew a double-digit lead. Had Redick used a couple of his reserves to give his main guys a break, perhaps they would have been fresh enough to attack the basket, get some defensive stops and earn the win. Instead, they are now back in Los Angeles, just 1 loss away from ending their season. This Wolves team is tough, and if the Lakers are going to extend their postseason, it will take an all-hands-on-deck approach, as the second half of Game 4 clearly showed. They'll need players like Vincent, Vanderbilt, Goodwin and even Hayes ready to make an impact. Actions speak louder than words, so we'll see how Redick uses his substitutions in Wednesday's elimination game and how those bench players respond to seeing the court again. Hopefully, for Lakers fans' sake, Redick is right and everyone is still all in on the task at hand.